Welcome to the Worst of the Riot podcast. Coming up, the NFL Super Bowl matchup conspiracy has been debunked. Or has it?
Also, love 'em or leave 'em, the credit card debt edition, and more on the Worst of the Riot podcast.
Mexico, where a passenger, did go ahead and storm out of the plane. He opened up the plane door, the door that opens up onto the wing, and walked out of the plane. You can't do that.
You get in big trouble for doing that, I believe.
You do, and he did. But what if I told you that he did that and the other passengers on the plane cheered and applauded when he did it?
So they were on his side.
They were on his side. I guess they were saying, somebody's got to do it. I'm glad it's this guy, so he's the one that gets arrested and not me. But apparently this plane had been sitting for 4 hours on the tarmac. People were complaining that they didn't have, the air wasn't flowing. There was no water that was offered to them or anything. They were just sitting there, hot in their seats, possibly getting dehydrated. Who knows if they were allowed to go to the bathroom, and nobody was doing anything. And so finally this guy took matters into his own hands, opened up the plane door, walked out onto the wing before quickly turning around and turning himself in, and then the police took him away. And so he's facing some charges, but he did get the support of the plane passengers, who not only applauded him, but actually 77 of them signed a written statement saying, basically in support of him and saying the airline was causing issues.
So he's in the clear?
I don't know if it works that way.
I think that's a pretty good good case for you.
77 people vouch for you against one airline. How many people does it take to equal an airline?
I feel as if you took that to court, they would say that's pretty good. It's pretty just.
I don't know how this is in Mexico, I think. I don't know how the Mexico courts work, but I mean, it's tough to say.
My question is, in what other place can they keep you in something and you don't have the choice to leave, you know? In what other area of life are you not allowed to leave somewhere?
Not many.
Probably nowhere.
I mean, jail.
Is there? Yeah, right? Jail. You put jail up there.
Yeah.
Other than a plane.
So that's what this guy's saying. He's like,
there
at least in jail, I get water.
Is there? Yeah, exactly. There's no other area in life where you're just not allowed to get off of something.
Yeah.
Except for in a plane, which seems wrong.
Confusing. This is confusing because the scenario is they had to do some maintenance on the plane. And I guess, you can see both sides of it. If they're like, well, this maintenance should take less than 30 minutes, it'll be so much trouble to get everybody off the plane, back on. But then you have, at some certain point, you've got to let people be.
Do you do that at hour 2 or hour 3?
Yeah.
Is that when you determine that it's no longer worth it to keep everyone on the plane? And I think maybe even a new plane would be better.
It's possible. I don't know how easy it is to acquire a new plane like that.
Or just to send everybody home, because if it's been 4 hours, nobody's getting to where they were going on time.
But what's the worst, too, is those people are probably lied to over the course of 4 hours. How many times did the pilot come on over the speakers? By the way, the pilot who could probably do whatever he wants because the plane's not leaving without him. But the pilot probably came on and was like, well, it'll be another 15 minutes. And then 30 minutes later, it'll be another 15 minutes. And how many times did they hear that?
Just too many.
Lies, no water, but a bunch of lies.
Do yourself a favor and follow The Riot on Instagram at RadioU Riot.
You ever heard of money dysmorphia?
I have not. It sounds like it has to do with money and some sort of issue with it.
That's very astute of you. That's you've got a keen eye. Money dysmorphia. Surely you're familiar with body dysmorphia.
I am familiar with that.
Which, how would you describe that? Body dysmorphia is everybody looks at you, they see one thing, you look in the mirror, you see another thing, you think your body is way different than it actually is, and that causes a lot of issues with how you treat your body and how you think, basically. Money dysmorphia is similar although I don't understand it much more than I think I get body dysmorphia, although I don't suffer from it. Money dysmorphia is you have a certain financial situation, but when you behave you behave as if you have a different financial situation. In other words, you spend more money than you have. And according to a new survey from Credit Karma, just about half of people suffer from money dysmorphia. Do you think you're one of those half of people?
See, I don't think that it should be considered money dysmorphia.
That's what they're calling it.
See, I don't think that's a real thing.
Yeah.
I think the real thing is just people not being financially savvy, not being a good budgeteer, not being a good saver.
Well,
But they came up with this term that they're like, well, it's not that I don't know that I shouldn't be spending this much money. It's that I have money dysmorphia.
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's a condition.
It is. It's not my fault. It's not my fault that I'm in debt. It's my money dysmorphia.
I
You
can't stop
blame
using
me.
my credit card because I have money dysmorphia. It's not because I'm not good with my money.
It's a disease, dang it. I'm suffering from it. It's an affliction. It's a terrible affliction. And I
the
have
doctors
it.
don't take me seriously either when I go in there. They won't. They won't give me anything for
Does it even qualify as this? Can I say, does it even qualify as like a disease, an affliction, if like half of people have it?
No.
That just means that you're just a person. You're just a person. But money dysmorphia, they say that you're particularly likely to suffer from money dysmorphia if you're younger. And the reason why is because of social media.
They love it. They love
social
Yep.
media.
I mean, that is the root cause.
I hate this quote from Ted Jenkins, CEO of Oxygen Financial, who said, social media has convinced 22-year-olds that they should be having vacations on the Amalfi Coast, Louis Vuitton bags, and an HGTV kitchen before they've earned it. That's right. I've been convinced that I should have Amalfi Coast vacations and an HGTV kitchen. You nailed it, Ted. And it's all
good.
Instagram's fault. Yeah.
It is. It's on Twitter.
How did he distill down what we're all suffering from so succinctly?
Money dysmorphia.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good excuse.
What does having this excuse even do for anybody? Even if we blame our problems on money dysmorphia, what do we get?
Sympathy? Do people want sympathy? Maybe they want sympathy.
Sympathy won't pay off my debts.
It
Isaiah.
won't. And nobody's going to give you free money either.
No.
Maybe that's what they want. If I say I have money dysmorphia, will the government give me money?
Not yet, but I think that's the goal.
Is it on the way?
Yeah.
Because maybe I have it then.
We gotta start petitioning for that. Championing it.
Hudson is the maple syrup, and Isaiah is the power protein flapjack. This is The Riot on Radio U.
Isaiah, while you were away in Florida, soaking up the fun in the sun, enjoying the heat, I'm sure. What were the temperatures like there?
In the 80s.
It's not too bad. I could go for that right now. For me, I was shivering because my heat went out in my house.
That's not ideal.
That was a tough one. Now, I think I had a pretty good outlook on it. I looked on the bright side. I said at least it wasn't a couple weeks ago when like the whole country was frozen, where it would have been like single digits, right?
It was a little bit warmer this weekend, wasn't it?
It wasn't painfully cold, but it was uncomfortably cold until I got it fixed. Now, are you like, I was talking to Nene because I spent a lot of Saturday with Nene, a winter jam, away from my heat being off. But I was talking to Nene. He was totally with me on this. Are you the type of person when something breaks at your house because you rent to that you like to avoid having the landlord over? Like that's the last thing that you want to do?
See, I immediately call the landlord.
You do?
That's my immediate first thing.
But your landlord's your dad, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you don't live with your parents, but you rent from them. So that's a little different. Have you ever had a place where you had like a regular, like a landlord you weren't related to?
I've lived in multiple apartments, yes.
Yeah.
And every time, if there's an issue,
or you just call up the landlord?
I'm ringing the phone immediately.
That's interesting because Nene and I both, we were like, no, I don't like getting the landlord over. So for me, I will, and like me and my landlord have an understanding that I will check in on what the problem is and see if there's anything I can do. because the landlord prefers with something simple rather than getting a guy to come out and fix it, or he has to call up one of his friends or something like that. That if I can just do it, if it's simple enough that I can just do it, then I can just like turn in the receipt or what, like he'll take it off, however it works. But when my heat went out, I went through the process of my furnace has a control board that has a light. And so then you can tell by the light, it at least gives you some indication. I got that far. I've never done anything with a furnace before besides change the filter, but I got that far to where, okay, I know what the light is saying this, but then that's as far as I could get before I'm not going any further. I called up the landlord and I wanted to avoid it, but I had to call up the landlord. He had to pay to get a guy come on out and fix it. It was a pretty simple fix, but something that was outside of my area of expertise. That's something that I couldn't just learn with a YouTube video. So that happens in life sometimes, where as much as you want to keep the landlord out of it, eventually sometimes you just have to realize this is a problem that's outside of my area of expertise. I can identify what the problem might be, but I can't solve it on my own. I'm going to need to get somebody else in there. And even though it may not be fun, and by the way, nothing, then the guy just came over and fixed it.
Your landlord wasn't mad at you?
The landlord wasn't mad. He didn't even come over. He didn't even question anything. He didn't even come over. I don't know why it is that I am so scared of the landlord. Like he's going to come over and kick me out sometimes. Although you do feel like you want to have the house extra clean when the landlord's swinging by. But nevertheless, I don't like getting him involved. But sometimes you need to seek some outside help. Sometimes you need some outside expertise because even if you can identify the problem, you can't solve it on your own. That's what God is for. When you've got a problem in your life, when you've got something going on, you may know, well, yeah, that the problem probably comes because I went through this breakup or because like this or that or whatever. You might know what the problem is from. You might know what the problem is, but try as you might, you can't solve it on your own. That's what Jesus is for, to come on in and help. And just like with my landlord, where no issues arose from it, it's not as scary to get Jesus involved as it seems. Jesus will come in and he'll help. It's free. It's easy. It's simple. Just say, hey, God, I want some help. I'm ready for that. And he'll do it for you. You want to know more? RadioU.com/free gift.
Add a little riot to your Instagram feed. Follow @RadioU Official. The Riot. Radio U.
I think the big talking point, the big headline coming out of yesterday's games was, did the Lions coach, Dan Campbell, cost his team the game by going for it on 4th down instead of taking field goals multiple times throughout the game?
Yeah, I mean, coming into the game, we knew that Dan was going to be aggressive.
He's a wild card.
But the Lions as a whole, I mean, it wasn't just on the 4th down decisions.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many things that they did in the second half of that game that just threw the game away. I mean, the fumble on their side of the field.
Brutal fumble.
That really sparked the 49ers comeback.
Uh-huh.
The 2 third down drops from Josh Reynolds were devastating blows.
Yep.
I can't say that Lions fans are probably very happy with him either. But I think the most devastatingly bad thing that they did, and this was on Dan Campbell, the most devastatingly bad thing they did was 3rd down on the goal line with a minute left.
Yeah.
They ran the ball.
Yeah.
Once you ran the ball, that meant that it was only an onside kick. They had to use a timeout. And then the very next play, they threw it and they scored a touchdown. But it didn't matter that they scored that very next play because they had lost the timeout.
They had to burn the timeout.
And so if you burn the timeout, then you're counting on an onside kick. And if you've ever watched the NFL, you know that onside kicks are one of the most rare thing that ever happens in the sport of football. And so if that's what you're counting on, and they were at the 1 yard line, it made no sense to me for them to run the football there, pass it 2 times in a row. If you don't score, you're not going to get the onside kick anyway. So running it does nothing. Wasting that timeout does nothing. And we saw, because they still had, they would have gotten the ball back with around 45 seconds with no timeouts. You could have gotten in field goal range. You could have tied the game. Running the ball there was the worst move I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, it was real questionable. And I don't know, if you're a Lions fan today, how angry are you at Dan Campbell? Because this is how he's always been. And this is what got you to this point. But at the same time, I think you have to play by the situation. And the first time he went for it on 4th down, instead of kicking a field goal, which they didn't convert. That could have increased their lead and really made, it was already a difficult comeback for the 49ers to make, and credit to them, a 17-point comeback. But it would have been even more difficult if you tack another field goal onto that lead. And then I thought it was real questionable too. Late in the game, they're down 27-24. You have a chance to kick a field goal to tie the game. And yes, that may make it go to overtime, or maybe you don't like your chances in overtime, whatever. But it would change also because the 49ers then, after they went for it on fourth down, did not get it. The 49ers went down and scored, and that made it very, very difficult for the Lions to have any chance of hoping of tying it up or taking the lead. But the 49ers' behavior when they got the ball back, if you kick a field goal, would have been different if the game was tied versus what the 49ers did, which was go down and score a touchdown. So Dan Campbell, I don't know, man. You got to...
But that's how they got there,
live by the sword,
though.
You die by the sword. Yeah.
Exactly. That's how they got there. I don't blame them for the fourth down calls. I don't blame them for going for it. That's what got them so far this season. And so if that's what your thing is, and the Lions know. Like, it's not like the players were saying, no, let's kick it. Like, Jared Goff was saying, let's go for it. Jahmyr Gibbs was saying, let's go for it. Amon-Ra, everybody on the field and offense was saying, let's go for this. And so if you've been doing it all season long in the biggest game of the year for you, are you going to change what's been working? You're not going to do that. Does it stink that didn't go your way? It was two awesome shots by the 49ers. It's just it's a tough situation. If you're a Lions fan, he's the riskiest coach in the NFL. A lot of times that works in your favor. This time it didn't. And it almost did. They were crushing him the whole game.
Yeah.
If they didn't have the horrible fumbles, the bad penalties, all the other things that went wrong for them, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Yeah. You do think, though, like you're right that his players wanted to go for it, but then you think, what did the 49ers probably want? They're probably, please don't kick the field goal. Please don't tie this up, which you should probably usually do what the other team is hoping you don't. But nevertheless, the 49ers, impressive comeback. So now we get a matchup with them, and the Chiefs is going to be good a couple weeks from now, and there's plenty of time to chat about that. 8772 RadioU.
You don't always have to agree with Isaiah to always disagree with Hudson. The Riot. Radio U.
Got a new wedding trend for you here, and this one, I'll tell you, I may write it off. I'm not going to write it off instantly, because first impression, it's actually kind of cool. Many people now at their weddings, instead of using like a child usually as the ring bearer, I think is typically what you would do, right?
Some people do that.
A lot of people do a child. Some people do a dog.
Some people have no ring bearer at all.
True. Some people are using birds of prey as their ring bearer. We're talking hawks, falcons, owls. Isaiah. That's kind of cool, isn't it?
It is cool.
It's actually kind of awesome. Until you see the price. It can cost up to around $1,200. Whereas if you get your niece to do it, it's free. But what's cooler? A hawk swooping in with a wedding ring, or your niece?
Well, your niece is much cuter.
Uh-huh.
The hawk, does it like do a little fly in?
Mm-hmm.
Does it hover above the guests, or is it a quick? Is it a 5-second thing?
It's not a helicopter, like swoops in. I mean, have you ever been to the zoo or something where they do one of the shows with the birds and they like glide over the audience? That's what I imagine. There's like some guy at the back of wherever your ceremony is, and he's like, "Go, Falcon!" And the Falcon glides over the entire audience. And then perches on probably like the groom. I don't know. It could be the groom. It could be the officiant of the wedding. It could be the bride. And she's got like that glove on. And the whole time you're like, why she got that glove on? It's so she can catch the falcon and take the ring from it. That's how I picture it.
It's cool, but I don't think it's worth the price.
You don't think it's worth it? How much would you pay to have a hawk at your wedding?
I don't even know if I would want, like, even for free. I don't know if I would choose.
You wouldn't choose it for free.
I wouldn't choose it for free. I would rather have it be like my cute niece or even my dog would be better than the bird. I have no attachment to the bird.
Jim the dog would be a good ring bearer.
The bird doesn't feel nearly as cool as any of the other options.
I don't know. I am seeing some people doing like parrots. That's not as cool. Like, not like not like a macaw. I'm talking like parakeet.
Like it feels like because there's these birds are so cool.
Yeah.
They're so cool looking.
Uh-huh.
You look so hard if you've got that glove on.
Yeah.
And it's like a hawk sitting on your hand. I am not that guy.
This guy, look
so
at this.
it feels as if you're trying to be cooler than you may actually be.
This photo.
I know I'm not cool.
These people, they've got a beachside wedding. Like they're on the beach, and then the falcon comes in, but he messes up because he like lands on the arch. And
Or
so
was that planned?
out of reach. Yeah,
Oh.
they couldn't get the ring from it. So
Chad says I work weddings part-time over weekends. I've seen this with a falcon. It's pretty cool to see.
It's pretty cool.
I think it
That's
would
for
be
somebody
cool.
who's seen a lot of weddings.
See, I think if I was sitting in a wedding and somebody had a falcon fly in and drop off the ring, that would be cool. But yet again, I just don't think I'm cool enough to be able to handle all that.
Yeah, it would make you feel a little bit like like some kind of wizard or something.
Like,
you
who
know?
am I trying to be? You know, I'm not
Yeah.
that guy. There's guys that I know that could pull that off. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
We're on the side. We're on the side. We're on the side.
Do yourself a favor and follow The Riot on Instagram at RadioU Riot.
A woman snowboarder was trapped in a ski gondola for 15 hours overnight. This goes back to Thursday night, where she hopped on a gondola to ride down the hill at a Lake Tahoe ski resort. She said she was too tired to snowboard down the hill. It was, I guess, at the end of the day, 5 o'clock. And shortly after she boarded the gondola stopped. I guess they were shutting down for the day. And so she was stuck in there overnight, was not found from around 5 p.m. Thursday until Friday morning. In total, it took about 15 hours before she was found, even though her friends reported her missing. She didn't have her phone with her. Also, should be pointed out, it was about 23 degrees. And those gondolas, although it was, from the pictures I have here, it was enclosed, but they don't have a lot of, that's not insulated. You're still cold in there. And so it's a chilly, scary night for this gal, but fortunately, she's doing all right now.
Well, at least she was probably well clothed.
Probably pretty bundled up, yeah. She says apparently she had to rub her hands and feet together to keep them warm, and that's what she did to keep her extremities from getting too uncomfortable. But not an ideal night. In fact, I was trying to think, could there be a worse place to spend the night than a gondola?
I don't know if there is. Because you got to think as well, it's so cold.
Mhm.
How do you beat the cold? Maybe heat. So I'm thinking maybe if it's like really hot
Yeah.
and you're stuck in like a porta potty.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be worse.
That's pretty bad, right?
That'd be worse locked in a porta potty.
And nobody finds you for 15 hours and it's like 100 degrees outside.
I think you probably would pass out if I had to guess.
Okay, maybe 85 degrees then. Just barely beat it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's my answer.
If anybody else, anything worse than spending 15 hours trapped either in a ski gondola in the cold or a porta potty in the heat. Can you top either of those? 8772 Radio U.
You know the ones that always really get me going is when I'm watching TikTok and they do like the cave exploration videos. Have you seen that caving?
Yeah.
And people like are crawling in those really tight places and sometimes they get stuck.
Sometimes I've seen people like kayaking in caves.
And so the ones where they're like caving and they're like crawling, trying to see how far they can go, and you get stuck. Those ones, I think that is the worst place I can possibly imagine getting stuck because of like the just like being so tight in there.
Claustrophobia.
The claustrophobia would drive me crazy. That's my real answer.
Yeah, and temperatures in caves usually aren't ideal either.
Yeah, just being stuck in there.
It's all
would just
dark.
be
At least
the
you probably
worst.
get a good night's sleep.
You
in a
would. You'd
cave.
have to sleep.
Much more comfortable than in a porta potty or gondola. 8772 Radio U. Isaiah has come up with two pretty good ones. Can you top it? Let us know.
Disinformation, mispronunciations, bad impressions. That's Hudson. This is The Riot on Radio U.
We're going to give you guys a scenario that our texters have texted in about their relationship, helping you guys go through the windy turnpike of love. This one is a doozy. You can decide whether this listener should love him or leave him. This one was texted in from a friend.
Oh, okay.
My very dear friend has discovered that her live-in boyfriend of 2 years has been hiding $55,000 in credit card debt.
Yikes.
This man contributes, man, they're kicking him while he's down.
Ooh.
This man contributes very little to the household expenses. She owns the home and barely helps to maintain it. He refuses to share any details about his debt and doesn't like being asked about it. What advice should I share with her? I don't want to hurt her feelings, but I want to give her fair and honest advice.
Ooh. This is tough. Because this is from a friend, right?
This is from a friend.
So it feels, if this was directly from the gal in the relationship, it would feel very open and shut, would you say?
You would think so.
It's a leave 'em. It's a big leave 'em. It's the biggest red flag leave 'em you can get. But what do you do when you're not the one in the relationship and you're just on the outside looking in? How do you intervene? Or should you? 8772 Radio U. I think we need to outsource this a little bit. What would you do if this was your friend? Let us know. 8772 Radio U. We'll think about it. We'll see what people are saying, and we'll get to all of it next.
Disinformation, mispronunciations, bad impressions. That's Hudson. This is The Riot on Radio U.
A girl is asking for help as her friend is dating a guy who just recently revealed after 2 years of dating that he has been hiding $55,000 in credit card debt. This man contributes very little to the household expenses and barely helps to maintain it. She owns the home. What should she do?
How could he contribute much to the expenses? He's $55K in debt. Brian texted in. Brian said, I stand with all bros, but hiding $55K in debt and not helping out, it's time to leave him. It's only been 2 years. You still have time to restart with someone else. Unless he is working on the debt, then work with him to get better. That's good from Brian. I like that. That it's not the number of 55,000, although that is eye-popping. It's a lot. But if it depends on also, right, how you learned about it. Did you find a bill and he's been keeping it a secret, or did he finally at some point come clean on his own and say, hey, I just think we've been together a while. I think you should know I'm deep in debt, because I think that makes a big difference. D also said they're living together. If you live in a common law state and have lived together for more, she says, than a year, his debt could become her debt. He's not helping her out with all that debt. At least have him moved out, and if not, leave him. That's a good point too. I don't know how the common law stuff works, but Dee's right. If you're living with him, and the longer you stay with him, right, even if it doesn't officially become your debt, it's more and more going to functionally become your debt. You can't have that if you're fine with if you do okay with your own money. So I guess even worse if you're also bad with money. So. Yeah, I mean, it's a clear leave him, right?
See, but I think there's layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
If I was looking on the other side, I think the biggest issue is he won't say why.
Yeah.
He got the debt.
Mm-hmm.
Is this, I mean, because realistically, for a lot of people that are walking around or listening right now,
yeah,
$55,000 worth of debt, that's a lot of debt, but that's almost as much debt as anyone who went to college probably had. A lot of people have similar debt to that.
Yeah.
And they're living with somebody, and they're dating somebody. So it's not the amount of debt that is the reason that this guy is in a bit of trouble here. It's that he hid it, and that he won't explain why he has it, how he obtained this debt.
Yeah.
Because if he says, oh, I went to college, and I'm paying off my school debt, then that's a pretty normal situation.
Yeah. Although it still sucks that he's not contributing, according to this friend anyways.
That does stink that he's not contributing.
Yeah.
And also on the other side of it as well, when was he supposed to disclose?
That is a good question.
The amount of debt. They've been dating for 2 years. At what time is he supposed to say I have $55,000 in credit card debt? Because it's not the first thing that you say when you meet somebody. When you start dating, you don't say, hey, I'm $100,000 in debt, or hey, I'm a millionaire, because those things don't need to be disclosed when you first start dating somebody.
Yeah.
So I see that he's been hiding it for too long. if he's being secretive about it, which is what Chris just texted in, if he's being secretive about $55,000 in debt, that creates trust issues. That would make me question what other things that person is being secretive about. And I agree with that as well. If he's being secretive, that's bad. $55K in debt, and also that he won't disclose it, bad. Leave him unless he'll disclose why he's been hiding it.
Yeah.
And if it's a horrible reason, then you definitely got to go.
You got to shine the spotlight on him. Interrogation time. What is this debt from?
And if he won't answer,
yeah, we need answers. Because 55,000. Now, I have been assuming it's credit card debt, which is definitely different from student loan debt. But nevertheless, yeah, it's not the price. It's not the amount of debt. It's the secrecy. It's the hiding it. And it's the going forward, not contributing it. When do you disclose it? Probably sometime before you move in might be a good time. But the last question, because this is from a friend, when does the friend step in? What can she do?
Well, if she asked you for advice, you just give it to her straight and say that exactly what we just said.
Mm-hmm.
You need to figure out why. But if she's not asking you for advice, then you don't need to give advice.
Yeah, she's probably not going to listen to you anyways.
Yeah, she's fine.
But,
she's a big girl; she can handle it herself.
But
you don't determine her relationship. You didn't approve of her going out with him.
I'll tell you what you do. You don't give advice. You just tell her to listen to the Worst of the RIOT podcast. She'll get the message.
There's never been a can of worms they didn't open. The Riot, Radio U.
In the NFL, the Super Bowl matchup was determined. It will be the Kansas City Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers. But I'll tell you that the top topic of conversation with the people I was with during the Kansas City Chiefs-Baltimore Ravens game was the Super Bowl matchup determined all along? Because obviously we talked about on the show, it was a widely spread online conspiracy that the Super Bowl was going to be the Baltimore Ravens and San Francisco 49ers. There was different ways that people had thought that they figured that would be the matchup, whether it was because the colors of the Super Bowl logo or leaked graphics online from TV guides and news tickers that said that it's going to be the Ravens and 49ers. Obviously, it's not the Ravens and 49ers. How do you explain it?
Well, there's a pretty clear explanation.
Okay.
Which, anybody know the number that we're on right now? The Super Bowl number? I believe this is number 58.
Is it?
It is. I believe so.
Okay.
Super
I'll
Bowl
take your word for
58.
it. Don't even know.
And in the beginning, when they created the logo, which was months and months and months and months ago,
yeah,
that was before the NFL could take it into fact that this was actually going to be Super Bowl Swifty-8. They made the logo before Taylor Swift was in the picture. It seems pretty clear and obvious they want her at the game.
Uh-huh.
The best way to do it, get Travis Kelce there. That's what they'll tell you now.
Yeah. After years of asking. And so you don't think that the Taylor Swift being together with Travis Kelce was predetermined?
I don't think so.
That's not, the NFL doesn't have that kind of power.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think they went to Taylor and said, "Can you date Travis Kelce?"
No.
That seems a little far.
That's a little far-fetched.
That seems a little. That seems kind of crazy.
You think at some point along the way the NFL decided to change the script?
Think. I don't think these things. I'm telling you what the public will say.
Uh-huh. How did they get all the Ravens players to agree to that?
They didn't.
They didn't. No wonder the Ravens were so upset yesterday, taking all those dumb penalties.
Yep.
Bumping into Travis Kelce and whatever.
They'll say it was the referees.
Yeah. They were upset. They were like, we saw the script. We were supposed to go to the Super Bowl, and now you're taking it away because of some blonde. Really?
And what else they'll tell you is the referee that was booked for the game is the one that calls the most penalties for the home team.
I heard about that leading up to it.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
So it's a never-ending. It's a never-ending conspiracy.
So in other words, the logo can't be trusted because we don't know when the logo. There's so many unknowns when the logo is created, but that doesn't mean it's not all according to some kind of plan.
That's true.
When do you think they change the plan?
I don't know.
Again, what do you think?
Yeah, when do I think these things? I don't think these
Speaking
things.
as a mouthpiece of the conspiracy theorist.
But I will say this. I came to a conclusion about halfway through the Kansas City Chiefs game. Before that point, I was cheering for the Ravens to win. And about halfway through the game, I was like, I kind of want Kansas City to win. I came around.
You did?
I did.
Because of?
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, he's good, isn't he?
The reason that I've came around to him is similar because I don't want to be a greatness hater.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a greatness hater for LeBron. I cheer for LeBron to go all the way because I think it's a great storyline. It's good for the NBA. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. He's the only one that's coming close to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
It's more entertaining for the NFL if Patrick Mahomes is in the big game. Because what are Lamar Jackson and the Ravens? Like, does that make for an exciting Super Bowl for the world? It doesn't. It doesn't make for an exciting Super Bowl. But Patrick Mahomes chasing Tom Brady, that makes for an exciting Super Bowl. I don't love Patrick Mahomes. I don't love the Chiefs, but I can come to appreciate greatness.
Yeah. By the way, I have an explanation. The Ravens, the logo thing, the TV guide, news ticker, that was all a false flag. It was the NFL. They were the ones putting that out. They had plants.
Oh, you're saying it was a switcheroo?
Yeah, they put that out intentionally. They're like, if we make the conspiracy that the Ravens will make it, then nobody will question when they don't. Then it'll just debunk any conspiracies, and we can write whatever we want and always get away with it. That's my explanation.
The switcheroo, Hudson.
Yeah.
Add a little riot to your Instagram feed. Follow @RadioU Official. The Riot. Radio U.
Isaiah, do you think you would know what to do if the United States, the world as a whole, was invaded by aliens?
I don't have a set plan of action.
Do you have any strategies in mind? What would you want America to do?
Keep us safe. Protect us.
Yeah. I mean, how?
Beat the bad guys. This time around, it would be the aliens.
Kill the aliens. Is that what you want?
That's what I would want. If they're invading us.
We should get you in the Department of Defense because the Department of Defense's Office of Inspector General, in a new report, has made clear that the United States is not prepared for aliens to visit Earth. The United States and also the Earth in general, not really set up for an alien invasion. The reason they say that, this is Inspector General Robert P. Storch. He said there's no coordinated method to handle all of these sightings of unidentified anomalous phenomena, which is very similar to UFOs. And every time one of these comes up, depending on which department or which person you ask, there's different protocol, different strategies that are used. There's no agreed upon method. And so he compares it to if you were trying to solve a puzzle, if it was a group of people trying to solve a puzzle, but everybody was using a different method and not talking to each other. You're all looking at like a different picture of the puzzle, but not talking to each other. So even within the branches of the United States government or the United States military, these unidentified anomalous phenomena, they're all handled differently.
So they're saying that they aren't prepared because they're not gonna know when we're being attacked. Let me tell you one thing. If there's an alien invasion, I've got a strong feeling that I'm going to see it on TikTok Live in a matter of 30 seconds after it starts. So if they're confused about when it's happening, I feel like they're going to be a little bit behind. Because I can probably tell you every 12-year-old will know what's happening.
That's what I'm saying, that by the time you're seeing it on TikTok Live, by the time the aliens have already decided and they're here, it's too late. It's too late. We have to decide now.
It's too late.
It's too late. If the aliens can traverse space and get here, what even is the debate? But what I'm saying is, yes, is this even something worth wasting our time over?
No.
He says the Inspector General of the Department of Defense kind of makes it sound like this is also an issue, though, because many times the unidentified anomalous phenomena, in fact, as far as we know, most of the time, those aren't aliens. They aren't otherworldly. It's man-made. So the problem could be if some other country, some other actor they're the ones responsible for these unidentified anomalous phenomena, we wouldn't be able to agree what to do with them. And then that could send them different signals. They could act differently. We can't agree.
Yeah, I'm thinking alien invasion. In my mind, I wasn't under the assumption we wouldn't be able to figure out if it was aliens or not. I assumed that the aliens would be on the ground here blasting us.
Yeah.
Which I feel like would be pretty easy to discern alien invasion.
Yeah.
So if they'd like me to be part of the discernment committee, I would love to apply.
I just don't. By the time we're discerning it, I think it's too late. You know, how can we even prepare for aliens? We don't know what they'll look like. We don't know what language they'll speak. We don't know what kind of weapons they'll have. How can you even prepare for an unknown enemy?
So you know what? That's a good point. It sounds like throwing away my tax dollars.
It does.
Find more Riot content online. Riot.radiou.com.